Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Lena Gothberg. Hello, Shipping Podcast lovers. Welcome to the 80th episode of the Shipping Podcast, where you will be meeting one of the 10 women to watch for the future in the maritime industry. I have set out to meet all 10 of them because I want to listen to their view of what it's like to be a young woman in the maritime industry. And I want you to hear what they are saying. So this is the third woman that I have met in the series of 10. In episode 72, I met with Therese Hjelbrink from Stena Bulk. In episode 76, I met with Stine Mundal from DNV. And now, I will be introducing you to Kristine Hasle Øverby. She's a partner at Wiersholm Lawfirm, so she's a lawyer. And she's specialized in shipping finance. I met with Kristine on October the 23rd when I was in Oslo. And here is our chat. Welcome to the Shipping Podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Kristine Øverby. I'm a partner in Wiersholm. Wiersholm is one of the top 4 or 5 top-tier law firms in Norway. I've worked here since I graduated from law school in 2005, so 12 years now. And my focus is shipping and offshore with an emphasis on ship and rig finance.
And how did you come in contact with shipping? What made you get the bug of the shipping industry?
I didn't really plan for it to happen, but I've always been interested in the international aspect of things. And I went to international baccalaureate, high school, but still went, a bit away from that and into law school, which is a very Norwegian-focused education. But when I graduated from law school and came into Wiersholm as a young associate, the markets were booming. There was lots to do, and a bit by coincidence, I started working with ship sale and purchases. And, it was very exciting, for fresh associate straight out of law school to be dealing with these huge ships and meeting lots of new people and the international environment. I was 25 years old at the time and came from the outskirts of eastern Oslo. It was a whole new experience for me. It was very exciting.
So you didn't study maritime law at the university?
Well, I did do my thesis in maritime law, or I would say environmental law, because I lived in Spain when the Prestige accident happened. So I wrote about it in my thesis. I wrote on coastal state liability for not taking ships into shore when there was an oil spill. So that was kind of what I had, but not. I didn't set out really to work in shipping other than what we had. A lot of the things that we did at that time in the sector or in the department, which was a more commercial M&A department, was shipping related. But it's always been transactional work. So the dry side of shipping.
Because, being a Swede, everyone presumes that if you go and study law in Oslo, it's maritime law. But apparently it's not.
No, the thing is, at least when I went to law school, there wasn't really that much specialization that you did do. But I think it's most of all, it's the international aspect that attracted me. And I found that what I liked was that I came into work with these people and I found that it was very fun and welcoming, and that I enjoyed the transactional work, the pace of it, and that you sitting in a closing meeting, there's always some problem coming up, you have to solve it. So that part of it really attracted me. And that was the start of it, and really that I found that I liked the environment, the people.
You can't deny that. You get the bug and you love the people and the pace. I totally agree with you. So what do you do now? What kind of work do you do now?
Well, it's, from that, it all changed, because those years from 2005 when I started out until 2008 when the financial crisis hit the market, I was in sale and purchase of vessels. That's what I was doing, basically ship closings. And that market disappeared like overnight. So I had 2 children. during the course of 16 months, jokingly taking advantage of the crisis.
So you had another delivery, the ship delivery, okay?
Yeah, so a different sort of delivery, but yeah. And looking back, it was very good timing. So I was away for some time, and then when I came back in 2010 after being on leave with my second child, the market had still not recovered. I mean, you had the odd scrap sale, but you didn't have the activity of the pre-financial crisis. So it's funny how these things work out, but it was a colleague of mine who I've been following since the beginning. We started out almost at the same time in Wiersholm. And she fell in love with one of the partners and decided to leave the firm. And she was in more finance-related work. And so I was asked to step in for her. And, I've always liked the challenge. And, it's always nice to be asked to, go and fill a position. So that was very good. And I've never regretted going into finance and expanding my field to that, because it's so versatile, and it's, something you can use along the entire, or at every stage of the cycle. And now with the offshore crisis that we've been living through the last couple of years in Oslo, it's been very useful.
And now you said that you can see the market coming back again.
Well, yes, I hope so. I mean, we've been doing now, it's been very interesting work. We've been doing restructurings in the offshore sector for the last couple of years, and also in, dry bulk and also other sectors. But I feel like we're at the point where there's a lot of activity and a lot of new things happening. And I think it seems to be at least the start of a new positive part of the cycle where we can perhaps do some deals that are positive in that sense. It would be nice.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Mm. So you were one of the 10 women on the list, 10 women to watch for the future.
Mm-hmm.
How did you experience that? What happened? Did something happen, or did your company pay any attention to that? Or
how? Here at Wiersholm, yes, very much so. I mean, this is also something that we live with every day in the legal profession. We see that we have an overweight of female students at the law faculty. Actually, we have more than 50% of our junior associates and associates are women. Also on the senior associate level, I think now after the last round of promotion that we had, there were more women. But on the managing associate level and the partner level, there's still an imbalance in favor of the men, despite the fact that you have a majority of students and being women and being employed to start.
It's been so for a long time, unfortunately. It was the same when I was studying law, unfortunately.
But it's getting, I mean, we are looking to, I'm also a member of the Women's Council of the Norwegian Bar Association, and we're seeing many positive signs. We have DNB, one of the world's largest and leading shipping banks, that have gone out and said that they're going to hold the firms accountable. They're going to start choosing their legal advisor based on also who can prove that they can provide a diverse workforce on every level of the chain in a law firm. So it's interesting. It's we see a push for it, and in my firm, what we see is that we had now the last round of promotions, we had 10 lawyers being promoted to senior associates and managing associates, and 9 of them were women.
Wow!
So we're really making progress.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought it was such a great initiative with the 10 women to watch for the future. I mean, it's the only way to make women more visible, to publish lists and to show them to the world.
I think so. I think it's important to have role models. I think, you have different kinds of role models. I think men can also be role models. But it's, I think for an event like Norway, and it gives it's like a breath of fresh air when in quite a traditional setting you have a list of 10 young women.
I totally agree, yeah. So did you ever have a role model growing up?
Well, growing up, Well, I did. My mother's always worked and been, very active outside of the house. So I guess that's part of it. And I've always been, I think, by character, very, very independent. I've been financially independent since I was 16, and always loved to work. So yeah, I guess that's the.
You were hesitant, so you have a role model now, then, because you said growing up, or.
Yeah, in Wiersholm, we are. Even though, and I must say, we are amongst the firms that we compare ourselves to, we are by far actually the best. But still, we are at the partner level. We're at 16%, so we're 6 out of 43, or so. We really can't. We can't be satisfied with that. So it's a bit. But we have. I think it's important that we have. Here you're not alone. You have others that have gone before you and that have been in the firm for a long period of time, that have families and that juggle the job and families and the work-life balance.
Do you consider yourself a role model now, then?
I do, yes. For the younger associates here, definitely. I think it's important to show that you can enjoy work. I think for me, work has always been a privilege. I enjoyed every job that I had in a form or another. Working when I was a student at a hotel, I've been working as a waitress. I've been working at the Norwegian railways, which is, where you really get yelled at times. But yeah, I think the privilege of work is something that I want to be a role model in for younger people of both sexes. But in terms of having that, we talk about work-life balance, and I have a family, but I also enjoy working. So it's it's not like I sit at work wishing that I had more time with my family all the time. It's it goes both ways. I feel privileged to have a very flexible and fun job. And I hope that I can display that enthusiasm to people, because sometimes I think it's too much negativity around the struggles of the job or just the job itself. And I think many people that enjoy what they do, they're really not, they don't see it as a sacrifice at all.
No, I think you're right. How do you see the future for shipping in general?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's in Oslo. We've been, we have been very lucky to be one of the. I mean, I am in ship finance, so it's one of the hubs of ship finance on a global basis. Very active bond market, for instance. We've had the big shipping banks being based here in Oslo, shipping and offshore banks. A lot of the managers that have been very successful on a global basis in the shipping community are based here. And I think it remains to be seen a bit after the offshore crisis, how that's going to play out. But we still see that the Norwegian investor market is quite risk-willing. So it's a good place to... and they have a lot of experience with shipping and offshore. So I hope and I think that it will still remain a center going forward.
Do you see new players in the market? I mean, when we talk about the new stuff that is happening, like digitalization, the startups and new companies and new things happening, is that attracting new capital?
I think it will. And I think that, the Norwegian Stock Exchange, for instance, is very heavily, or has at least been, but they have, I think we have the potential of combining technology and those traditional sectors of shipping and offshore in a way that will position us for the future.
Because nowadays I meet some startups in the maritime sector, and some of them are struggling because they want to have access to capital, of course. And some of them say, well, there are new people investing in us because they see us as a potential what's happening to the maritime industry. Might be another type of investors, I don't know, but I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think if you are a startup and listening to this, I think you should definitely try to have an eye for Oslo and see what kind of opportunities that you could find there, because it's been traditionally a market which is quite risk-willing and which I think, despite the offshore crisis, wants to continue to invest in these activities.
Yeah, and they know so much about maritime industry, which the startup might not, depending on in what kind of business they are starting.
I agree. That's exciting.
But I also think it's interesting, the digitalization as such. Because, I mean, we can't escape it. It's an industry revolution everywhere right now.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see that actually shipping is one of the, I think people tend to look at shipping as quite a conservative business, but they've actually been very good at adopting new technologies and are one of the front runners in digitalization, and also probably one of the businesses that can take the most advantage out of the technological advances. And on the legal side, we see, for instance, it's interesting because shipping has always been being very international and being a business which hasn't really had patience for long contracts. It's like BIMCO, it's been standardized contracts and which have worked really well. So I think shipping in that sense, which is a bit scary for lawyers, by the way, because this is what we do, but in the sense of transforming to smart contracts, shipping is well positioned because they already did a lot of the job, having uniform contracts on a global basis and having very, very strong market practice documents.
Yeah, I met someone who is now digitizing the bill of lading. That will make a change to all of us. I mean, if you're not in the maritime industry, you won't understand how revolutionary that is.
No, I agree.
300-year-old documents finally could be digitized.
And you always have in ship closings, you always have, the whole, who goes first? Do you release the mortgage? Do you pay the purchase price? And with smart contracts, where you have blockchain technology providing the steps, you're able to take away much of the risk of settlement, which is a big issue in ship closings, like in basically any closings. But in shipping, you also have often the time difference aspect and all of that, and having to depend also because the transactions are in dollars on the US banks. So there's a lot of things that you could see being simplified in that sense through digitalization. Maybe
this is a stupid question, I don't know, but is there some sort of, do you work across borders on that subject? I mean, or are you working within your law firm and the next law firm is working in there when it comes to the smart contracts? Or is there some working group internationally? Or, I mean, I don't know.
Neither do I. There might very well be. I don't know. But this is definitely something that should be a subject that should be talked about more broadly. But that being said, we do have amongst the largest law firms in Norway, we do have discussions and a certain cooperation as to how to address the digitalization with the robots coming in that can go through large quantities of contracts and identify key clauses. On that level, at least within Norway, there is, or within the Oslo Norwegian market, there is cooperation, and I think also more broadly, but it's a kind of, these days it's still, early days, who goes first? It's expensive investments, which are most likely going to be a lot less expensive in a very short time.
Yeah, of course. I think I've only spoken to the technical sides of these new inventions and tools and things like that. So, yeah, interesting. An interesting aspect that the law has to keep up, or the other way around, we need to obey to the law that is already there.
And I think it's for us, it's about also looking at the way we work, because in a way you could say that I think the natural response of lawyers is to become a bit afraid of it, because it's taking away some of our work. But it's taking away the work that is least interesting, the kind of, detailed review of contracts, which is not that creative. And I think we need to start looking at it positively and, say that this is kind of the dull part of the job. We can now focus on, what we should do, which is being creative and giving advice to our clients. And that's, I think, in the shipping community, the good thing is that it's always been about relationships and, people, personal contacts. And in that way, I think the shipping lawyers have a strength because they are used to dealing with that environment and having to make those personal contacts and rely on those and not only be a producer.
I'm so happy that you look upon it like that, because I think every job should be looked upon like that when it comes to this digitalization, the digital transformation. Because yes, of course, my job can disappear, but maybe I will be doing something even more interesting instead, and not being just afraid. And in a way, I think it's important that we take that discussion now and not later. Because if we get involved now, we can influence what we want to do, what will be the interesting part of the work. If we just sit there and say, no, I'm not going to participate, okay, then we are left at the station when the train leaves.
Yes, and you're very, you will very soon become a dinosaur because these things move so quickly, and we need to embrace the change and then see how we can be part of it and use our strengths to the best in the new reality.
I agree totally. Oh, I'm always agreeing with my guests. I don't know why. How can the shipping industry become more visible to the general public?
Well, I think in Norway, actually, it's not that invisible. We see a lot of attention in the financial newspapers around the business. So it's not. I don't think it's invisible, but it seems. I think that you need to be more involved on an early stage, more involved with students at the faculty. We do here, for instance, Introduction to Maritime Law, which is kind of a free seminar that we arrange or that we do here at Wiersholm for the students. And I'm always so positively surprised because it's when we do this both in Norwegian and English, especially when we do the English sections. We see there are the international students, and it's such a diverse group of people. And it really shows how international the position of the University of Oslo is in this area. And you have lots of people from Asia, for instance, coming here to learn about maritime law. And it's exciting to see. So I think that's a key thing to be in contact and have the pace of the university and students. And I think also that we discussed earlier, that the perception of shipping as a very traditional business is to a certain degree also true. Lots of men, and although an international business within the, here in Oslo, for instance, it isn't really that diverse in terms of the people that actually work there. And I think that's something that we all need to work to improve, because the winners of tomorrow will also be the ones that are able to identify talent, being, diversity also on, sexual orientation, ethnicity, and also gender, and being open to new perspectives or new ways of looking at things.
I mean, being a Swede, I can see your Norwegian government talking about maritime industry. I can see them in the news talking about the maritime industry. That never happens in Sweden.
No, and I mean, the Norwegian state, through the offshore crisis, through GIEC, have been quite active, and both with the offshore ship owners and the yard industry on the west coast. So I think the perception is still that it is a very important sector.
We are going to need the best talent, as you said, for the next generation. Yeah, if they don't know about our industry, how will they find us then? If we're not out there, and if we're not in cyberspace, they won't find us either. I mean, in cyberspace, that's where we should be found. So we need to work on our profile. And in addition to that, it's the politicians. Both they are taking decisions on the society, and that will have an effect on us. And they are also sending representatives into, for instance, IMO and places like that. And we need to have some understanding of what we are contributing to in society. And if we are not speaking up for ourselves, who will do it? So that's why I've been thinking a lot about how is the profile for the maritime industry as an industry. It has been like, I understand that ship owners don't want to be up there representing an entire industry, or they can't find the time or whatever. But we need to understand what that will hit us in the back if we don't.
Yeah, but I think also with, especially through social media, I see a lot of the younger generation of people working in ship owners and in the industry in general that are a lot better at communicating and a lot more open and, working really to promote the business. So I think we have a good, or there isn't entire lack of development.
No, it isn't. But I need to be a little bit provocative when I say so. And I can see it. I mean, the last 5 years, a lot of things have happened and progressed in a positive way for us. But there is so much more we could do. We could stand up and talk to other people than ourselves about how much we love shipping.
It's funny because it's a kind of dual sentiment to that, because one of the things that I loved when I came into the shipping industry is also the fact that it's so tight knit. You could go to a conference in New York or London and be bound to meet somebody because it's it's the same people. But I agree. It's that has another dimension. That's the fact that we need to open up more for the outside world.
Yeah, we need to tell them how good we are and what a cool industry it is to work in. Especially since we're going to need more and more people, because I expect us to grow. I mean, trade will always be there. And as long as there is a sea in between two continents, there has to be something transporting it. If it's a traditional ship or if it's an autonomous ship, or I don't know. We'll see. Who would you be interested in listening to in the future? Who do you think I should meet the next time in the shipping podcast?
I think from my perspective, there's you have the shipping community or the shipping business, you have the legal profession. The other part where I touch on is the finance community, where in terms of promotion of women, it's even, they're in even a worse state than we are. So I would like to listen to somebody from the financial community. Okay. Or, but somebody from Ship Finance, obviously, being a shipping podcast.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
But there are very few.
Yeah. Maybe you need to point me in a direction. I don't know. Thank you very much for taking the time, Kristine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristine, for being such a generous host and allowing me to use the premises of Wiersholm Lawfirm's beautiful office on Aker Brygge in Oslo to do my interviews with the 10 women to watch for the future. That meant a lot to me, and I think it was easier for the women to find me in your offices than for me to run around Oslo and try to find the rest of the women. So thank you. Today, when I am editing this podcast, it's March the 8th, and that is the International Women's Day. And I must say that it has been a really busy day. I don't think that I have ever experienced so much attention and hoo-ha, I would say, on the International Women's Day before. My experience tells me that we are in a momentum at the moment, where things are changing. And I really hope that we would get the same attention for the rest of the year, and not only for one of the 365 days. Once again, I'm packing my bag and I'm going on a little trip. And I will try and catch some interesting people to interview. I'm going to Greece. So, if you have any good contacts or people you want me to interview whilst in Piraeus, please let me know. I have some plans, but there might be a spot to fill. You can always reach me on social media. I am @Lena Gothberg on Twitter, and there you can find me. Or send me an email at hello@shippingpodcast.com. And why don't you include what you think about this episode? I think it was great, but I might be biased. So I will be waiting to hear from you. And until the next time, from me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a shipping podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.